Did you know that going to the Sun Road was built in the 1930s, about 100 years ago? To learn more about this iconic road over Logan Pass and 9 other amazing facts about Glacier National Park, come hike with us on some of our favorite adventures. Let's get started. We like to use a question and answer format, so while we hike to St. Mary and Virginia Falls, let's answer. Why is Glacier National Park so special? Glacier National Park is in northwestern Montana, right on the Canadian border, and it connects with Canada's Waterton-Lakes National Park to form the Waterton-Glacier International Peace Park. But did you know this special relationship created the first park of its kind in the world? What makes Glacier National Park so special is its incredible diversity. In just one park, you'll find towering peaks, over 700 miles of hiking trails, 762 lakes, dense forests, rushing rivers, and active glaciers. But it's also one of the most intact ecosystems in the lower 48 states, meaning you can experience the land much as it was hundreds of years ago. That combination of raw wilderness and dramatic beauty is what makes Glacier National Park unlike anywhere else in the country. Now that you know where Glacier National Park is and why it's so special, let's get in the truck and look at one of the most famous adventures that draws millions of visitors every year, and later we'll get into the establishment of Glacier National Park. What is the Going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park? The Going to the Sun Road is Glacier's most famous attraction, and for good reason. This 50-mile scenic highway climbs over 6,600 feet to cross the Continental Divide at Logan Pass. Along the way, you'll pass waterfalls, wildflower meadows, jagged cliffs, and sweeping views that will stop you in your tracks. But you may also see bighorn sheep like we did. Built in the 1930s, it's considered an engineering marvel, carved right into the mountainsides, with stone guardrails and tunnels that make the drive unforgettable. It's only open in summer because of heavy snow, so if this road is on your bucket list, plan your vacation between late June and September. Many visitors say you haven't truly experienced Glacier National Park until you've white-knuckled the Going to the Sun Road. Of course, the road is just one way to see Glacier National Park, but for many people, it's the chance to spot wildlife in their natural habitat that makes the trip unforgettable. So before we learn more history, let's hike to Hidden Lake and ask, what wildlife can I see in Glacier National Park? Glacier is a wildlife paradise. It's one of the few places in the lower 48 where all of the large native mammals still roam. Yes, even bison are being reintroduced into the region. But during our time in Glacier National Park, we saw grizzly bears and black bears wandering meadows, moose feeding in lakes, and bighorn sheep and mountain goats navigating steep cliffs. But did you know Glacier National Park is one of the best places in the world to see mountain goats? They're even the park's official symbol. Elk, mule deer, and lynx also live here, and birdwatchers can spot bald eagles, harlequin ducks, and even the elusive peregrine falcon. Because the ecosystem is so intact, wildlife thrives here in a way that feels truly wild. The wildlife is thriving here for a reason. Did you know this land has been preserved for over a century? Let's talk more about this while hiking to Avalanche Lake, and later we'll discuss a little-known nickname with a big meaning. When was Glacier National Park established? Glacier was established as a national park in 1910 by President William Howard Taft, making it the 10th national park in the United States. Its creation was part of the early conservation movement, led by people like George Bird Grinnell, who spent decades fighting to protect the area from mining and logging. At the time, the park was home to more than 100 glaciers, and it quickly became known as a wilderness wonderland. Over 100 years later, Glacier National Park still serves the same purpose, preserving one of the last great wild landscapes of North America for everyone to enjoy. Of course, the park isn't just about history. It's still living up to its name today, as you'll discover while we hike the Grinnell Glacier Trail. Are there really glaciers in Glacier National Park? Yes, there are still glaciers in Glacier National Park, though far fewer than when the park was created. In 1850, there were about 150 glaciers. By 1910, when the park was established, more than 100 remained. Today, fewer than 25 active glaciers are left, and most are much smaller than they used to be. Some of the most famous ones you can still see, including Grinnell, Sperry, and Jackson glaciers. These glaciers aren't just ice. They shape the land, feed rivers, and create those turquoise blue lakes Glacier is famous for. Seeing a glacier in person is both beautiful and humbling. You're looking at a living remnant of the Ice Age, but also at something that's disappearing before our eyes. We'll get back to the list in a second, but are you liking this walk and talk format? We share all of our hiking adventures in this way to help you plan your first trip and learn more. Subscribe today, so the next time you search one of the places we've been to, our videos come up at the top of your search results. Okay, back to the list, and while we hike Highline Trail, who lived in Glacier National Park before it became a park? For thousands of years, indigenous peoples lived in and traveled through the lands that are now Glacier National Park. The Blackfeet, Salish, Kootenai, and Pendo-Oriole tribes all have deep cultural, spiritual connections to this land. I hope I pronounced them right. To the Blackfeet Nation, which still borders the park on the east, these mountains are sacred and feature heavily in their stories and traditions. When you visit Glacier today, you're not just exploring beautiful landscapes. You're walking through lands that hold immense cultural meaning. Knowing this history adds a layer of respect and appreciation for the park and its first peoples. Every good national park video needs a dad joke. Since we love these views, did you know your pupils are the last part to stop working when you die? They dilate. Okay, later we'll talk about why Glacier National Park became a destination, but let's continue on Highline Trail and discuss, why is it called the Crown of the Continent? The nickname Crown of the Continent was popularized by conservationist George Bird Grinnell in the early 1900s. He saw Glacier as the jewel of the Rockies because of its dramatic peaks and unmatched beauty. But the name also has a geographic meaning. The park straddles the Continental Divide, where rivers flow in 3 different directions: to the Pacific, the Atlantic via the Gulf of Mexico, and north to the Hudson Bay. Very few places on Earth can claim that distinction. Standing at Logan Pass, you're literally standing at the top of the continent, where the waters decide which ocean they'll eventually reach. Before we continue, if you're planning your first trip, check out our video description now while you watch for the guidebook we use to plan our trips and reference during our time in the park. What role did the Great Northern Railway play in Glacier National Park's history? The Great Northern Railway was crucial to Glacier's early history. The railroad company lobbied for the park's creation, then built a network of Grand Lodges and backcountry chalets to bring visitors from all over the country. Their marketing campaign called Glacier America's Switzerland, promising alpine adventures without crossing the Atlantic. Many of these historic lodges, like the Mini Glacier Hotel built in 1915 and Lake McDonald Lodge built in 1913, are still standing today. Staying in them feels like stepping back in time, surrounded by rustic architecture and sweeping mountain views. But did you know Amtrak still has a station at the West Glacier entrance? Without the railway, Glacier might never have become the world-renowned destination it is today. It seems appropriate to hike to Iceberg Lake for these next 2 questions. Why do people fall in love with Glacier National Park? People fall in love with Glacier because it feels like stepping into another world. It's not just the scenery, though the towering peaks, wildflower meadows, and turquoise lakes are unforgettable. But the wildflowers were one of our biggest surprises. Still, it's the sense of wilderness, of standing in a place that feels raw and untouched. Hikers talk about the sound of silence on a high trail, except when my brood is nearby. The thrill of spotting a grizzly in the distance, or watching the Milky Way blaze across a dark night sky. But for many, Glacier National Park feels like a reminder of what the world looked like before it was developed. Wild, pure, and awe-inspiring. That feeling is why so many people return again and again. What do you like about Glacier National Park? Join the conversation and comment while we answer this question. How has climate change shaped Glacier National Park's history? Climate change has had a dramatic impact on Glacier. Myth or real, when the park was created, it had over 100 glaciers, but now fewer than 25 remain, and they're shrinking every year. Scientists estimate that most of them could disappear within the next few decades. But it's not just about ice. Melting glaciers change the entire ecosystem. From the flow of rivers to the habitat of cold water fish, this makes visiting Glacier today even more meaningful. You're not just seeing stunning landscapes, you're witnessing history in real time. A landscape that is changing before our eyes. For many visitors, that adds a sense of urgency and appreciation. This is a chance to experience something that may not look the same in another generation. To learn more and continue planning your trip to Glacier National Park, watch this video next.